What if I tell you that the powers that be, they don't want Africa to grow? It is in their best interest that Africa stays poor, but one man has got the interest of the whole of Africa on his back. He is a billionaire from Nigeria.
See, if I'm not investing in Africa, there is no way I will go and convince anybody outside the continent to come and invest.
In this video, I am going to break down 4 reasons why they don't want to see Africa grow.
What we have is the rich control. The rich set up these institutions explicitly to control the poor countries.
The puppeteer will continue to control the puppet.
1 out of every 5 people on the planet is African.
Once I catch you with the debt strings, I hold you forever.
What are the traps set for Africa to prevent it from growing?
IMF, World Bank, WTO. We always think evil creatures, horrible. It's not. It's just economics. It's economic warfare. What we have is the rich control. The rich set up these institutions explicitly to control the poor countries. And they don't give them much room for maneuver. Which incidentally, when the IMF starts talking of poverty alleviation, you should also understand, what does the IMF do? What is structural adjustment about? It's about making sure countries keep producing what we want them to produce. We make sure they have recurrent balance of payments problems. You notice these countries never get out of balance of payments problems. You notice that? And they've also done something very, very important. And that is they have destroyed the self-sufficiency of these countries. Okay? One of the most important things is we destroy food self-sufficiency.
Unfortunately, the world we live in have an unspoken order, often in plain sight. They are probably insecure about their position and therefore have a huge desire to keep anything and everything around them down. And that's the narrative towards Africa.
Our economies are shadow economies that are controlled from Washington, D.C., or from Paris, or from Lisbon, or from London. We must cut that umbilical cord. If we don't, as the saying goes, the puppeteer will continue to control the puppet.
According to Howard Nicholas, there is a trap.
Once I catch you with the debt strings, I hold you forever. You are my prisoner. Okay, so debt has been this huge spider's web which has trapped sub-Saharan Africa and keeps them held there. Aid, debt. We have a third structure which is again not known by many people. Monopoly buying structures. This is for all raw materials and basic agricultural goods produced by developing countries. There are only 4 or 5 Western multinationals that buy all those goods. And they collude between them. In order to make sure their control is total, what they do is they force all the producers to produce the same uniform banana. You go to any developing country, you know how a banana tastes, don't you? There's so many of them, lots of varieties, but we only market 1 or 2 types, so we have control, you see. If you don't produce at the price I want you to produce, I go to the next country.
Africa is now beginning to unburden itself and create economies that generate revenue from across the world. Aliko Dangote is now showing the whole world that Africa can operate a world-class refinery to global standards.
This is one of the major suppliers of jet fuel to UK today as we speak, because, we also export to US gasoline. There's nothing that actually we are not actually, producing in terms of quality.
Supplying fuel to the USA and the UK is only a snippet of Africa's potential. What are the powers that be afraid of? Let's find out.
We have become consumers of what we do not produce and producers of what we do not consume. Africa still is famous for producing primary goods with very little or minimum value addition. When you are in that business where you are a farmer of rubber in Liberia and the raw rubber is taken to Europe for Michelin to make tires or Firestone to make tires, you cannot realize your potential.
The one region of the world where the population continues to grow rapidly is Africa. Africa's population grew 5 times from 1950 till today. It's 1.5 billion. According to the medium forecast of the UN, Africa's population will reach 2.5 billion at mid-century and about 3.7 billion in 2100. And in percentage terms, this means Africa's population was 9% of the world population in 1950. Today, it's 19%. 1 out of every 5 people on the planet is African. And by 2050, it will be about 25% of the world population. And by 2100, 35% of the world population. So Africa will be in the center of the world story, the world history, the world population, the world demographics in the course of this century. Now, what does all of this mean for Africa? I believe that it is feasible and the right target for Africa essentially to follow the path that China followed between 1980 and 2020 in a process of 40 years going from low income to high income.
A China-like growth for Africa. Think about that for a moment. A powerhouse of the world economy. The powers that be don't want the table turned against them. Can you imagine Africa shaping global economic narratives? Africa actually have the tools to do that.
We have a very, very ambitious, program across all our businesses. We are looking at areas where we have lack of investment in Africa, like infrastructure. We are building the deepest port, 80-meter draft, and we are going to keep expanding. Our intention is to have the largest port in Africa. Today, the biggest issue that we have, especially in Nigeria, where we have critical minerals, but we are not able to export these critical minerals because we don't have the infrastructure. There's no port. When I say that there's no port, there's no capacity in the ports that we have. So what we are trying to do is to now open up the country by allowing people to now export all the sorts of minerals that they have, even though the intention is for us to make sure we process our own minerals before export.
Exporting finished products out of Africa is the aim here. Africa only have 4 deep sea ports in Nigeria, Morocco, Cameroon, and South Africa, with expansion for another 3 in Nigeria, Kenya, and Ghana. Having sufficient deep sea ports opens up Africa massively.
Most of these things that we believe they are impossible in Africa, they are very possible. And we will lead in making them possible.
There is one thing that Africa has that the world desires. Let's talk about that. Raw materials is the engine of the global economy. The powers that be want to keep Africa in the role of supplying just raw materials. So they give Africa a false sense of growth, whilst other economies are busy developing and growing.
Now, we have actually seen periods of rapid growth in sub-Saharan Africa, misleading people, saying, oh, we're now doing much better. Recently, I've had students come and tell me, we've done much better now. And you can see growth rates rose quite sharply in recent times. Now are starting to go again down. But if you look historically, the same thing happened earlier. Why? Because in these two periods, we had East Asian rapid industrialization processes. So in the earlier period, we had Japan and Korea and Taiwan. Okay, rapid growth, sucking in raw materials from Africa, driving up the prices, and then sub-Saharan African countries grew. Exporting raw materials, they grew. But after those countries finished industrialization, then sub-Saharan African growth rate again fell. Okay, but along comes China. Next wave. Okay, again, sub-Saharan African growth rises, but now China is going down. As many of you now know from the press, China is going down. But sub-Saharan Africa is going down even faster. And we're going to go back to where we were again, with very low prices of raw materials, very low growth rates, and again, the sorts of poverty that we saw once before. Because, bottom line, sub-Saharan Africa is condemned to this role, just the supplier of raw materials, not a manufacturer.
Africa wants to grow. Africa needs to grow. What is stopping Africa?
We need an order of magnitude change of development finance, because the rich countries can borrow at 0 and the poor countries pay 5 or 10% coupon rates or have no access at all. So the world exposed its grotesque inequality this past year and a half. Rich countries didn't say, we tighten our belts, why don't you? My country spent $7 trillion of emergency funding, not one penny for anybody else, by the way. We need massively to increase the lending and borrowing capacity of poor countries at near 0 interest rates like the rich countries have. Then they could get something done.
Finance is key. Yes, of course, we are abundant in raw materials. But how do you develop it into finished products? Africa now have finance collaborators. That's a game changer.
With the likes of Afrexim Banks, Africa Finance Corporation, with a lot of support from other financial institutions, there's nothing we cannot do in Africa.
Something is happening across borders in Africa. Let's talk about that next. Africa is beginning to shine its eyes and is waking up.
Africa's time has come, and its turn has come. China achieved rapid growth for 40 years. The other country of comparable size, India, has been growing at about 7% per year since the year 2000. And India has become the 3rd largest economy in the world. And its poverty is now below 5%. So my view is Africa is next. You're the next region of 1.5 billion people.
Africa will have to work as a united force. The powers that be work really hard to ensure that we are not united. But someone is disrupting the global system and working in alignment with Africa.
The case between Africa and China is the case of where everybody sort of abandon you, and somebody is coming to you to say, okay, fine, you know what, let us partner. We want to offer you X, Y, Z. We get credit lines, from China, and in fairness, they deliver on time. And if you know what you are doing and what you are buying, the Chinese will also deliver quality. The quality of what they are producing is amazing.
The West is very afraid that their living standards will be affected if Africa should rise. Is that happening now? Let's look around us. Tell me in the comments box. Let me know what you feel. They don't want Africa to grow, but unfortunately for them, Africa's time is now. Please give me a like and subscribe to the channel.